The reason you are bored with Jesus is because you don't see him for who he really is. Jimmy Kimmel, like, who is that? Jimmy Kimmel used to do a section of a show called Eyewitness News, where he would get celebrities to dress up in disguise and put on like ugly wigs and toupees and fake noses, and they'll send them out to LA, the streets of LA, just to ask random people questions like, how's the weather? How are the Clippers doing? And what would happen is the interviewee wouldn't realize that the interviewer was a celebrity. Well, at one point, 10 years ago, when everyone liked him in LA, Drake got dressed up. He got put on the ugly thing and all of that stuff. So he's asking this random guy who doesn't know it's him. He says, hey man, are you a Drake fan? The guy says, am I a Drake fan? He starts rapping his lyrics. I'm not gonna do that today. We're in church. He starts rapping his lyrics. And as he's rapping his lyrics, he looks and then he turns. And then he looks at the random interviewer and he suddenly realizes that this person is not who I thought it was. Why? Because Drake has started to reveal himself to him. He started to remove the ugly nose, remove the toupee from his face, from his head. And guess what? The interviewee starts to realize, oh my gosh, it's Drake. It's Drake that's been standing in front of me all this time. Drake revealed himself to him. He saw, and what happens to the interviewee? The guy, he starts jumping up for joy. He's grinning all over. There's joy, there's glee in his face. Why? Because his favorite artist has been standing in front of him all this time. And that's what you do when your favorite celebrity is in front of you. What changed? The man finally realized and recognized, and he saw clearly who it was that was standing in front of him. Your problem, my problem, is that we don't see. In John chapter 4, Jesus is talking to a woman at the well. And as he's talking to her, she wants some water. She doesn't recognize him. He's not wearing a disguise. He is who he is. She doesn't recognize him. And then he says to her, listen, he says to her this, if you knew the gift of God, and who it was that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would ask him and he would give you living water. Translation, if you knew who was in front of you, you wouldn't just be excited like you saw a celebrity, you would be in awe, realizing that you're talking to the Messiah and he gives what no one else can give. How can you and I get bored of Jesus when we see him for exactly who he is? John, in his gospel in chapter 1, says that the word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen, we have not just heard or known about, no, we have seen with our eyes his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth, meaning that Jesus is the ultimate manifestation of the presence of God. So when you see him, you see God. When you hear him, you hear God. The same God who spoke and universes came about. The same God, as we sang today, who is our way maker. The same God who says that I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then Jesus comes and says, before Abraham was, I am. Simply saying that he is God. This Jesus. And I'm not talking about the Jesus of the Democrats or the Jesus of the Republicans or the Jesus that your grandma hangs in her wall. No, I am talking about the second person of the Trinity, the one who made all things and holds all things together. The God that if you follow him will fully satisfy and fully fulfill you. And if you fail him, will fully forgive you. This Jesus. How do we realize we are talking about Jesus, the one who saw you and I in our desperate state of sin and didn't leave us there? No. This Jesus comes and he puts on human flesh. He lives the life we could have never lived and dies the death that we should have died. Why? Because he loves us and he values us and he cares for us and he wants you and I to have a relationship with him. And we look at this God, we look at this Jesus who is everything I just mentioned and more, and guess what? We get bored. If only we knew who it was that was standing in front of us.